Brexit should have needed 60% of the vote in favour, says a Tory Brexiteer minister. I'm going to read into this more from the Independent, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from the Independent with the headline that Brexit should have needed 60% vote in favour, says the Tory Brexiteer minister. It probably should have been a supermajority. That's a huge thing for me to say, said Steve Baker on the 2016 referendum. Steve Baker, Brexit hardman Steve Baker, has said that 60% of the vote should have been 60% of the vote should have been needed, guys. So, for those who have been living under a rock, when the Brexit referendum happened, it was a very, very tight call, very slim majority in favour of Brexit. It should have been a much bigger threshold on the vote. And a lot of people, including myself, didn't really know what we were voting for. We didn't know if it was going to make a massive difference. People were told that lots of things weren't going to change as well. One thing that was not on that ballot when people casted their vote was that we were voting to leave the single market. Yes, I did say I did vote for Brexit. And at the time, I didn't know, like many other people, what we were voting for. But to say that we voted to leave the single market, that was not on the ballot box. And it's very important to make that differentiation. So obviously, like many people, we have made huge regrets and basically we want to undo it. We never got an opportunity to have a second vote. And we have been denied that second vote. And we've left the EU, and now we're suffering the consequences of it. And it's basically what I like to describe it as the biggest scam in British history, this referendum. It is without a doubt the biggest scam in British history because the British public were blatantly lied to on numerous things, and people are much worse off as a result of leaving the European Union. And it's even more frustrating when you see these same people who pushed and advocated for it are now kind of turning their heads a little bit. Brexit hardman, Brexit-backing Tory Minister Steve Baker has admitted that the historic vote to leave the EU should have required a supermajority of 60%. No, shoot, Sherlock Holmes. The Northern Ireland Office Minister and leading Leave campaigner made the comments as he suggested a 50% plus one majority would not be advisable for a vote on the Irish unification. The 2016 referendum on ending EU membership passed with a roughly 52 per 48% split in the UK population, forcing years of turmoil before the country left in January 2020. Mr Baker told the meeting of British-Irish Parliamentary Assemblies, the BIPA, on Monday that it should probably have been a supermajority or at least 60% to leave the bloc. The minister said a higher threshold would have removed the difficulty of politicians and the public not accepting the result, admitting it had caused serious political trouble. Responding to a question about whether he had any regrets from the Brexit campaign, Mr Baker said, "One regret is that it probably should have been a supermajority." That's a huge thing for me to say, because if there had been a supermajority, we'd have lost and we'd still be in. But the reason I say that is if we have to have 60%, everybody would have abided by the result. He added, if it had been a 60-40 result, it's inconceivable to me that we would have had all the political difficulty which followed from members of Parliament in particular refusing to accept the result. And he's right, because there was it was split. How many times have we talked about the damage that Brexit has done, guys? It has destroyed lives. It really has destroyed lives and destroyed businesses on such a tiny margin, like that, and we just went with it. Just did not feel right. He's absolutely right. It should have been a bigger threshold to actually to make such a big commitment like this. He was not democratic at all, just based on a slim majority. The Northern Ireland minister was cautious up against a 50% plus one result in a potential Irish unification vote. Would anyone here seriously want a 50% plus one United Ireland result in Northern Ireland? I couldn't agree more. When they will have that vote at some point on the Irish unification, and they should have a threshold to meet that. I do agree on that. After some politicians mumbled yes in response, Mr Baker warned them of the trouble caused by the simple majority that caused the Brexit referendum. He said, just reflect on the trouble that we've had from running a 50% plus one referendum in the United Kingdom and ask yourself whether you really want that trouble in Northern Ireland, and I don't. Last year, Mr Baker apologised for his once ferocious stance on negotiations with the EU, which he said he did not always encourage Ireland to trust the UK government. Meanwhile, Mr Baker has appealed to the Irish government to meet with the head of the new commission created under the UK government's Controversial Legacy Act. Controversial aspects of the law include a limited form of immunity from prosecutions for the trouble-related offences for those who cooperate with the newly independent Commission for Reconciliation and Information Recovery, the ICIR. I hope that the Irish government will take the opportunity to meet with the Chief Commissioner to talk to him about our work, because I really do think it was the unfinished business of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, and my heart goes out to the families and victims, said Mr Baker. The main topic, obviously, is that looking back on the referendum, it really was incredibly harsh on the British public. It really was harsh, and even Scotland. Let's not forget. When all the talk about leaving the EU and all that kind of stuff was brought up all the way around 2014, everyone was all told, no, we're not leaving the EU, there's not going to be a vote, nothing's going to happen, all that kind of stuff. The Scottish people were lied to in 2014, and that makes their vote, that referendum, null and void, because they were lied to there, and we were lied to in this one, which in my opinion we should have been entitled to a second vote, but we are now stuck in this void, and it's going to be a very long time before we find ourselves back within the European Union, especially because of the current politicians we have running the country right now, which is pretty despicable to say the least. But we can only hope that the sooner we get a Labour government in, the better, that they can reduce trade friction for the benefit of the economy, that wounds can finally heal about Remain and Leave, and you just hope that people will come together as a result, will come together again. People who have been divided and destroyed thanks to Brexit on the whole premise of it. But it's for Steve Baker to say that, I think he knows that this was a mistake, and that's why he's saying what he's saying. But what do you guys think? How infuriating to hear Steve Baker say that? Should it have been that case at the start, at the 2016 referendum? Because I certainly think so, and I'm sure some of you guys agree with me too. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.